So this is question number 13. This is showing the membrane potential, or the difference between the negative and like the difference between the negative charge and the positive charge on the inside and outside of the cell membrane. So normally a cell membrane is at a negative 70 millivolts, which means it's a lot more negatively charged on the inside than it is on the outside. This is the resting membrane potential. That means there's nothing coming in, nothing going out. As the neurotransmitters come in, they bind to ligand-gated sodium channels and let sodium in. But as we learned with greater potential, it depends completely upon how much, like the amount of the stimulus. If the stimulus is enough, and there are enough of them, it reaches what's called the threshold, which means that the negative charge has become more positive, and that in turn activates an action potential, which activates all the voltage-gated sodium channels. So all the sodium comes in, and this is where it's depolarization, where the inside of the cell, like the positive ions are coming inside the cell and creating a lot more positive of a charge inside, up to the point where it's more positive inside than it is outside, at which point the gates close and the voltage gated potassium gates open, which let positively charged potassium ions out of the cell wall, and that's going to repolarize the cell and bring it back down. But once the action potential is initiated, and into while the action potential is going on, and until the actual closing of the voltage gated sodium channels, that's what's called the refractory period, where it can't accept any more stimulus. Once it gets down here, once those channels close, because there's a gap in between how long it takes for the potassium channels to close, it can receive another stimulus, as long as it's more so for another action potential. But it will bring it down, and it will actually hyperpolarize, which means it will come below the resting membrane potential, and that will cause the sodium channels to close, and therefore bring the membrane potential back up to the resting membrane potential, and therefore it is resting and ready for another action potential.